Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you kindly for stopping by. We had all kinds of excitement as these ospreys, I'm reliably informed after I tweeted a photograph of them. US ospreys sort of flew by my 8th floor window, so that was exciting. Let me start with some macro thoughts. A Sotheby's employee poses with an electronic sculpture, dollar, by Tim Noble and Sue Webster. And that goes back to something I've been talking about for a very long time, starting off in September 2014 when I said there was a small window for sharks as the dollar rises. Home thoughts, I'm going to start with Tagore. Reach high, for stars lie hidden in you. Dream deep, for every dream precedes the goal. And that reach high, for stars lie hidden in you, made me think of that photograph I took from the top of Ololokwe Mountain. And it was really spectacular flying in there on a helicopter and then having some coffee right at the roof of the world, it felt like. Voice of America tweeted the UN Security Council unanimously approves Iran deal plan to lift Iran sanctions. I concluded by saying Tehran and Havana are significant foreign policy wins and seismic even. John Kerry says he's pleased to welcome the Cuba Foreign Minister Rodriguez to the State Department. That was yesterday, first visit by Cuban Foreign Minister since 1958. And then on August 14, he says, it will be my honor to raise the American flag at our embassy in Havana for the first time in 56 years. Paulus Ventures tweeted sunrise in Havana, and it's a really beautiful photograph by Howard Ignatius. China is protesting at the US Pacific Fleet Commander's spy plane flight. China renewed its protests over US spy planes entering what it claims as territory after the commander of the US Pacific Fleet joined a surveillance flight over the disputed South China Sea. And I found somebody who's actually tweeted a photograph of the fleet commander, Admiral Scott Swift, in the P-8A Poseidon, surveying the South China Sea. The Chinese said for a long time the US military ships and aircraft have carried out frequent, widespread, up-close surveillance of China, seriously harming bilateral mutual trust in China's security interests, which could easily cause an accident at sea or in the air. That's the Ministry of Defense. The Admiral joined a 7-hour surveillance mission on a P-8A Poseidon plane on July the 18th to witness the aircraft's full range of capabilities. And I concluded by saying just the pivot. Satellite imagery shows construction and dredging underway at Mischief Reef in the Spratly Islands. This photograph is by Getty Images. And then we have that tweet which shows the Commander Scott in the P-8A Poseidon. Japan, on their part, is demanding China halts oil exploration in a certain part of the South China Sea. And then the Times of London tweeted, female ISIS suicide bomber kills Kurdish aid workers. And I thought to myself, the brainwashed is a long tail in a world of more than 7 billion. Currency markets, the euro touched 108.08 overnight, which was a 3-month low. It's now bounced to 108.51. Dollar index is above 98. Japanese yen 124.34. Swissy 0.9649. Pound is at 155.68. Aussie at 0.7371, India rupee 63.735. I think the Aussie's gotten caught up with a rebound in the New Zealand dollar, which was last trading at 66.08, but I think that's going to peter out. The Prime Minister had some words about the New Zealand dollar, which lent its support. South Korean won 1159.08, Rial 319.68, Egyptian pound 783.01. and the South African Rand 1243.63. Dollar index, let me put up a 3-month chart. I think 100 is in its sights now, then 110. Received a boost after the St. Louis Fed President James Bullard told the Fox Business Network on Monday that the central bank is likely to raise rates in September as inflation is set to climb toward its target and unemployment is poised to dip below 5%. Holger tweeted that Citibank sees the best value in shorting euro versus dollars. This is the least crowded dollar-long trade in the G10 universe. I think they're right. Euro-dollar, let me put out the 3-month chart. I think parity is calling, although we're getting a little bit of a bounce going today. Dollar Canada, let's have a look at this. I spoke about this a while back, 129.88. I'm going to put up a 1-year chart. I think 140 is the objective. Richard Vines, who writes about food in Bloomberg, is named London's top 10 hotel bars, the quirky, the cool, and the glamorous. I like Zeta Townhouse's cocktail lounge, which he says attracts a hipster crowd as befits the hotel's location. Commodity markets, Javier Blas yesterday spoke of how the Bloomberg commodity index has dropped to a 13-year low, although gold bouncing a little bit right now. I'll put up that image. In November last year, I said that I thought the commodity supercycle was dead in the water and that the unwinding of that supercycle will take gold below $1,000 an ounce. Nanex LLC gold futures double halt last evening, and you can see that there was a very steep fall during a stretch of about 15 minutes in Asian trading hours Monday. Gold prices plunged by the most in 2 years. I'll put up a 3-month chart. I'm looking for a triple-digit print in 2015. And Holger put up a longer-term chart, and it's now erased half of its gains from its 12-year bull run. And he's now saying $1,000 is on the horizon, like I've been saying for a while. And it's also, we're seeing very weak crude oil price, Brent at 56.55. WTI just above 50. My target is $44, and I'll put up Holger's chart where the front contract has actually dropped below 50. President Buhari met with President Obama yesterday, and he also met with the former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright. I'll put up that photograph because I couldn't find a good photograph of the meeting with Obama. Western official, you can be talking to Nkurunziza, and I think I know who that is. It's Jean-Peter Liu. And he'll just be looking away like you aren't there. It's the New York Times. He was a rebel fighter, lay grievously wounded in the mud along a river in central Burundi. With enemy soldiers bearing down, he thought it was the end. But then crocodiles set upon the advancing soldiers. He was saved. It was divine will, he would later say. It is a story the rebel Pierre Nkurunziza has told often since that day in 2001 to explain how he knew he was the one who could save this country after years of ethnic strife and civil war. Despite being sentenced to death in absentia for abuses by a Burundian court, Mr. Nkurunziza indeed went on to become president after the war ended. But now, after 10 years in office, diplomats, critics, protesters say his single-minded drive to hold on to power is setting his country on a path towards tyranny and more bloodshed. Many experts fear that the violence would escalate swiftly, setting off a chain of events that could ripple across Rwanda and other neighboring countries. What the people of Burundi are telling us is that they fear their country is on the brink of devastating violence. Zaid Rad al-Hussein, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, recently told a gathering of the Security Council. The violence plays out in the shadows after nightfall in tin and mud homes and neighborhoods across the city. Every night there is shooting, said Amisi, 45, who declined to give his last name for fear of retaliation. He described how people in police uniforms came to his neighborhood last week and killed 2 men without giving a reason. And I spoke about this on the 4th of May when I spoke. Everyone's eyes are on Burundi and the spillover risks. In particular, White Ash retweeted an AFP photograph and captioned it, "How they protect a president in Africa. Look at the photograph." And then the president's Twitter handle tweeted on July the 4th, and I'll put up that photograph that was tweeted then. Clearly he's going to win this election, but the question is he's dealing with a much more powerful opposition in the street, which has found its voice and muscle. And therefore I think, we're going to be in a low-level skirmish for quite a while, if low-level is the right way to describe it. Africa's jihadists, Africa, the biggest threat to African peace and prosperity comes from a dangerous idea. This is The Economist. Reportedly tweeted, "This is a useful visual recap by AFP of what Hissène Habré is being tried for." Let me put up a photograph of the very same fellow. Mail and Guardian, South Africa, with more shopping malls opening, expanding or upgrading, local retailers are racing headlong with international brands to occupy prime space. In the face of unprecedented competition, they cannot rely on extending square meters to keep customers, argued Jacko Prinsloo, principal at management consultancy A.T. Kearney. It's not always expansion for profitable growth, it's expansion just to secure that position, he said. Across the board, there is lots of competition and revenue per square meter has gone down, he said. South African all shares up 6.46% this year, doing rather well, but the South Africa's index of gold mining stocks fell to the lowest level since April 2001 yesterday. Dollar rand 12.4363. I think we're headed higher in the dollar rand. Egyptian pound 783.01. The Egyptian EGX 30 is minus about 9% year to date. Nigerian all share firmed 0.25% yesterday, but it remains down over 10% this year. Orange is discussing the possible acquisition of Bharti Airtel units in Burkina Faso, Chad, Republic of Congo and Sierra Leone. And interestingly enough, that news pushed Bharti's share price up to a 6-year high. Look homeward, Barack Obama. This is an article in the Daily Beast. Which of us has looked into his father's heart? Thomas Wolfe asked in his novel Look Homeward, Angel. Before Obama Jr. ever became president, that is what he went to Kenya to do. I wrote a piece on the 22nd of June, POTUS's visit, a good endorsement for Kenya. And I said, I recall the morning we learned that Barack Obama had won the presidency in November 2008, and there was ecstasy in the air. I remember turning to Nishat and asking, do you feel it? I remember thinking how curious that an election so far away could be the catalyst for this mass ecstasy here in Nairobi. Ambassador Robert F. Godek, who was recently my guest at Mindspeak and is the US Ambassador to Kenya, compared President Obama's visit to Kenya to President John F. Kennedy's to Ireland, and I thought to myself, exactly. It's a real big moment, and I asked Bob Godek, it's a big deal? Doesn't get bigger than this, he replied. Reuters Africa tweeted Kenyan artist Evans Yegon, alias Yegonizer, holds his artwork depicting US President Obama in Nairobi, July the 17th. If you haven't seen Bob Godek's Mindspeak session, there's a link for his speech. There's also a link for the Q&A session after his speech. And there's also a third link for an interview that I did with him after we'd all wrapped up. Kenya shilling holding in there at 102.51. Nairobi all share down 4.03% year to date, but it turned 0.23% higher yesterday. NSE 20 couldn't turn higher, it eased back 0.23%, but obviously today will be interesting to see whether the market can base out a little bit. Equity market is of course having to hurdle a weaker shilling, sharply higher interest rates, a sell-off in the bond market. Fitch pitched in last week revising the outlook on Kenya's long-term foreign and local currency issuer default ratings to negative from stable. However, yesterday's trading action was a little bit more constructive. Safaricom up 0.99%, This is the market had pulled the price lower ahead of the Equitel launch, which happened yesterday. Evidently, buyers calculated that the recent downdraft had become overcooked, and we're seeing it bounce over 1% further today. Equitel, which uses Airtel's infrastructure, and it's interesting that report about Bharti selling out of a few of its African franchises, but they was launched yesterday by FinServe, a subsidiary of Equity Bank. It's a competitor to Safaricom's M-Pesa. Closed unchanged, equity closed unchanged at 45. I can't see them going head-to-head or toe-to-toe with Safaricom. I think they're going to look to leverage Airtel's Sub-Saharan African network. KCB was strong, up 1.83% to close at 55.50. It's up again today. Britam down 44.7% year to date, weaker still today. BAT was strong, up 1.75%. It's bucked a weak market to rally 9.86% this month, and it's down just 5.55% in 2015 now. EABL, well traded, closed unchanged at 285. Oversold, down 7.46% year to date. Kenya Power was strong, up 1.56%. It's been an alpha performer this year, actually, up 12.45%. And Eveready was strong, up 6%. That's up 17.56% year to date. If you ever want to track the stock market in real time, just log on to rich.co.ke and register. It's free. Get a password and then go to Rich Live, and you can track the market. It's open Kenya time, 9:30 to 3 o'clock. Once again, thank you for stopping by.